Without a timescale, there is no education policy. The Hare timescale provides the missing clock for meaningful accountability. This video will explore the Hare timescale and explain why federal accountability has failed underperforming states and districts for 4 decades. Consider a 9-year-old student in Detroit reading at a scale score of 174, well below the federal proficiency threshold of 238. Her district has a 1-year improvement plan. The fundamental question is, how long until she reads at grade level? The federal official, the superintendent, and the teacher operate on different timescales: the 1-year fiscal clock, the 3 to 5-year plan clock, and the 13-year cohort clock. The policy clock aims to save the federal official's reputation on the August clock, while the child's life runs on the cohort clock. In 1862, Lord Kelvin used the wrong timescale to calculate the age of the sun, arriving at a catastrophically incorrect conclusion. Similarly, American education policy is making the same mistake. The math is fine, but the clock is wrong. A timescale converts a current state into a finite, communicable horizon. It aids in diagnosis, dosage, triage, and accountability by providing clear metrics for success or failure against a baseline and time frame. Policy operates on short, cyclical clocks, like the 1 to 5 fiscal years of the policy clock, while children develop on the 13-year cohort clock. The cohort clock is the only one that truly matters to the child, yet it remains invisible to current accountability. The Hare timescale uses a formula to calculate time in days: gap in standard deviations times 720 divided by the annual growth in standard deviations. This results in the time to proficiency in instructional days. Other frameworks break on negative growth. Hare addresses this by assigning a stagnation proxy of 0.025 standard deviations per year to any non-positive trajectory. This turns an infinite time frame into a finite, actionable number. Applying the formula to the Detroit student with a gap of 1.78 standard deviations and the stagnation proxy of 0.025 sigma, the time to proficiency is 285 school years. This number is the reality for the student under the current conditions. The chart illustrates how increasing the annual growth rate drastically compresses the time to proficiency. At the stagnation proxy of 0.025 sigma, it takes 285 years. With Bloom's ideal growth of 2.0 sigma, it's reduced to 3.6 years. Same gap, different growth rates, different policy regime. 32 years of national reading scores show little change across 4 federal reform eras. The 1992 score of 217 and the 2024 score of 215 are statistically unchanged, despite billions of dollars invested in reforms. Each major reform, NCLB, SIG, ESSA, and pandemic funding, was authored on the wrong clock, focusing on short fiscal years rather than the cohort clock, leading to little change in cohort trajectories or national scores. Educational interventions suffer from the fade-out problem, where effects decay rapidly. A typical intervention's effect can decay by 50% per year, returning to zero in roughly 5 years. A single-point estimate is insufficient without considering the decay rate. Policy gains evaporate for 3 structural reasons. First, interventions end before the trajectory bends. Second, annual targets reward short-term ceiling effects, not meaningful slope changes. Third, cohorts cycle out before long-term effects can be measured. The graph shows the years to NAEP proficiency in 9 TUTA cities. Red bars represent current growth, with long times to proficiency. Green bars show the significant time compression achieved with an enforceable growth standard of 0.50 sigma. The logic of a timescale applies across different domains, from stellar astrophysics to education policy. Both stars and school districts are governed by 3 key timescales: dynamical, thermal, and nuclear for a star, and annual policy, cohort, and generational for a school district. Without a timescale, key functions are impossible. This includes diagnosing a district's status, determining the appropriate dosage of intervention, triaging limited resources, sequencing investments, and accurately accounting for success over time. The 3 crucial questions, diagnosis, dosage, and triage, all require a clock. The timescale answers whether a district is moving toward or away from proficiency, how much intensity is needed, and which districts should be prioritized for funding. Implementing a time-scaled regime means replacing the 1-year policy clock with the cohort clock. This shifts policy levers from annual targets to years to proficiency, required sigma growth, and cohort-indexed funding windows. The operational standard proposed is 0.50 sigma per year. This federally enforceable standard is twice the expected growth, closes the Detroit gap in 14.2 years, distinguishes growing from stalled districts, and is linear and easy to communicate. On day one of adopting a timescale, states can compute years to proficiency for every district, re-rank the CSI list based on required growth, convert annual goals into sigma growth targets, index funding windows to gap size, and publish a public time to proficiency dashboard. The stakes are high. Every reform cycle without a timescale costs a cohort. One cohort moves through the system per year. The $190 billion in ESSER funds yielded little change because the clock was wrong, leaving 47 states stalled. Policymakers should replace annual proficiency targets with years to proficiency. Superintendents must tie strategic plans to sigma growth targets. Foundations should fund interventions on cohort horizons, requiring reporting of effect and decay rate. The time to act is now. The 9-year-old student in Detroit and the 47 stalled states cannot wait for the next reform cycle. Use a timescale before the next budget season.